Hello there. Welcome to Lotus Sleep. For over 2,000 years, Buddhist teachings have helped people find peace, not by fighting against their thoughts, but by understanding them. Not by silencing the mind, but by seeing it clearly. Not by becoming someone else, but by remembering who you already are. Tonight, we will go on a journey. A gentle, slow, deeply restful journey. Through misty rivers and quiet mountains, through ancient temples and leaky huts, through storms and strawberries, through broken cups and calm ponds under full moons, we will sit with stories passed down through generations, stories that don't promise to fix you, but instead invite you to rest. Because beneath all your planning, your worrying, your replaying and rehearsing, there is a quieter way of being, always has been, always will be. You do not need to do anything special as you listen. You do not need to quiet your mind by force. You do not need to solve anything or even understand everything. Just let your body sink into your bed. Let your breath soften. Let your shoulders, your jaw, your forehead just melt. And, as you do, allow these words to settle into you, not like instructions to follow, but like rain soaking into soft earth, gentle, patient, nourishing. We live in a world that moves very fast. Notifications blink, deadlines loom, news scrolls endlessly. People expect answers now, and your mind tries to keep up. It believes that if it just thinks hard enough, worries thoroughly enough, it can keep you safe, so it never stops. It scans the past for mistakes. It scans the future for threats. It replays conversations. It rehearses disasters that may never happen. And all this spinning, it feels like protection. But often, it's just exhaustion dressed as vigilance. Tonight, we don't ask you to stop the spinning. Instead, we ask you to notice it, to see it, not as an enemy to defeat, but as a pattern to understand. Zen Buddhism has been studying the mind like this for over 1,000 years. And what it points to is not a new technique, but a remembering. A remembering that peace is not something you build, it's something you uncover, like still water beneath ripples, like the sky behind clouds, like the moon, whole and quiet, even when its reflection is shattered on choppy water. You don't need to create stillness. You only need to stop stirring. So before we begin, let yourself arrive. Feel the weight of your body on the mattress. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. Hear the quiet sounds around you, the hum of the night, the whisper of your breath. There's no rush, no destination, just this. And in this, there is already enough. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are a human being, sensitive, thoughtful, beautifully imperfect, navigating a complex world with a mind that evolved to scan for danger. That's not weakness, that's humanity. And tonight, you are safe. So relax, release the need to get it right, let go of the pressure to fall asleep fast. Because the calm you are looking for is closer than you think. It has been here all along, beneath the noise, beneath the worry, beneath the what-ifs and if-onlys. There is a quiet presence, watching, holding, waiting, not for you to be better, not for you to be calmer, just for you to notice it. And so, let's begin, together, with kindness, with slowness, with trust. There's movement in your mind right now. Even as you listen, thoughts come and go, without your permission. One moment you're here, the next, you're thinking about tomorrow's meeting, or last week's argument, or that email you forgot to send. This is simply what minds do. and Zen Buddhism has been studying this phenomenon for over 1,000 years. The ancient teachers called it monkey mind. Picture a monkey swinging through trees, grasping one branch only to immediately reach for the next. Never settling, always in motion. This isn't meant as criticism. It's an honest observation. The Buddha himself described the mind as wild, difficult to guard, difficult to control. But he also taught that this wildness could be understood. And in understanding it, we find freedom. The trouble comes when we believe we are the monkey. When we identify so completely with every anxious thought, every what if, every I should have, every they probably think, that we forget there's something else here too. Something watching, something that notices the movement, without being swept away by it. Anxiety feels deeply personal. It seems like your burden, evidence of something uniquely wrong with you. But Buddhism teaches something different. It suggests that anxiety is less personal than it appears. It's what happens when any human mind gets caught in certain patterns of rumination, of projection, of catastrophizing. This is where Zen begins. Not with fixing, not with solving, but with looking, with the simple, radical act of paying attention to how your own mind actually works. There's an old Zen story, passed down through generations, that begins on a misty morning by a river. A man was rowing his small boat across the water at dawn. The air was cool and soft. Visibility was poor. But he knew this crossing well. He'd made it hundreds of times. The gentle rhythm of the oars was almost meditative, and his mind was quiet, for once. Then, through the fog, he saw another boat approaching. It was heading directly toward him, on a collision course. He called out a warning. He waved his arms. He shouted louder. Still, it came. He tried to row out of its path, but there wasn't time. Thud. The other vessel struck his boat with a solid thud, nearly throwing him into the cold water. The man was instantly furious. His peaceful morning had been shattered. His heart pounded. Heat rose to his face. He gripped the side of the other boat, ready to unleash his anger on whoever had been so careless, so reckless, so utterly thoughtless. But when he looked into the boat, it was empty. Just an old vessel that had slipped its mooring upstream. No captain, no oarsman, no one to blame. Just weathered wood and river water, drifting wherever the current pushed it. The man stood there, hands still gripping the empty boat, and felt something strange happen inside him. His anger, which had felt so justified, so necessary, had nowhere to land. No target, no story of malice, no person to punish, and without a target. The anger simply began to dissolve, like morning fog burning off as the sun rises. He sat back down, watched the empty boat drift away into the mist, picked up his oars, and continued his crossing. But something had shifted. That evening he found himself in a dispute with a merchant at the village market. The merchant had overcharged him, or so he believed, and he felt the familiar heat building in his chest. The righteous words were forming. The certainty that he was right, that this other person was wrong. Then he remembered the empty boat. He paused, looked at the merchant more carefully. This was a man with tired eyes, worried lines around his mouth. A man with his own pressures, his own fears, his own sleepless nights. What if this person was also an empty boat? What if the overcharge was a mistake born of exhaustion, or a calculation born of desperation to feed a family, or simply a different understanding of fair value? What if none of it was aimed at him personally, at all? The anger was still there. He still believed he'd been overcharged, but the story around the anger had changed completely. And with that change, he found he could speak calmly. He could negotiate. He could even walk away without feeling wounded. The transaction remained a transaction, not a referendum on his worth, not proof the world was unfair. For years afterward, whenever he felt anger or anxiety rising, he would ask himself one simple question: is this an empty boat? Usually, it was. Buddhism teaches that so much of our suffering comes not from what happens, but from the stories we construct around what happens. The boat hitting you is just an event, wood meeting wood. But your mind immediately wants to know, why? Who's responsible? What does this mean? Will it happen again? You build elaborate narratives of blame and fear, and then you suffer from those narratives far more than you ever suffered from the original event. Anxiety works exactly this way. Something happens, a small uncertainty, a missed call, a strange sensation in your chest, and the mind begins constructing stories. What if this means something terrible? What if I can't handle it? What if everything falls apart? The initial discomfort was real. That was the boat bumping into you. But the catastrophic tales that follow? Those are stories. And Zen teaches that stories can be recognized as stories. They can be held more lightly. The practice isn't to stop having thoughts. That's impossible. The practice is to see thoughts as thoughts, to notice when you're building a story around an empty boat, and in that noticing, find a little more space, a little more freedom, a little more choice in how you respond. And that is where peace begins, not in the absence of thoughts, but in the presence of awareness. So tonight, if thoughts arise, as they will, don't fight them. Just whisper softly to yourself, "Ah, there's a story," and return to your breath, to your body, to this moment. You are not the monkey. You are the one who sees the monkey swinging, and in that seeing, you are already free. We live in a world that never stops moving. From the moment your eyes open, sometimes even before, you are pulled into motion. Notifications blink, tasks pile up, voices ask for your attention, and your mind, loyal servant that it is, answers every call. But somewhere in all this rushing, you forgot what silence feels like. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of stillness. Zen offers something simple in response to all this chaos. It offers stillness, not as an escape from life, but as a way to meet life more fully. For over 1,000 years, the heart of Zen practice has been a simple act, sitting. In Japanese, it's called zazen, just sitting. But it's often misunderstood. Many people think meditation is about achieving something, a special state where thoughts stop, where bliss begins, where you become calmer, wiser, more spiritual. But that's not what Zazen is. Zazen is just sitting, nothing to achieve, nowhere to get to, no special state to reach. You sit down, you breathe, you notice what's happening. That's it. This might sound disappointingly ordinary, especially if you came looking for magic. But there's something deeply freeing about a practice that asks nothing of you except your presence. You don't have to be good at it. You don't have to quiet your mind or control your thoughts. You just have to show up and sit. The Buddha himself found awakening while sitting under a tree, not performing rituals, not studying scriptures, not trying to become anyone other than who he was. He simply sat. He watched. He was present with things as they were. And that was enough. There is a reason stillness has been honored by every wisdom tradition in human history. When you stop moving, something has a chance to settle. Like muddy water that becomes clear when you stop stirring it. The mind naturally calms when you give it space. Now, let's rest for a moment. Feel the surface beneath you, your bed, your pillow, the quiet support holding you. Let your breath soften. Let your jaw relax. Let your hands rest, palms open or gently curled. You don't need to do anything right now. Just be here. And as you are, let this story unfold in your mind like mist rising from a river at dawn. There's an old story from Japan about a tea master named Tiano. He was famous throughout the land for the beauty and precision of his tea ceremony. Lords, poets, and warriors traveled great distances just to sit in his small tea room, a space so quiet, so intentional, that time itself seemed to slow. In that room, the worries of the world fell away. There was only the steam rising from the cup, the sound of water being poured, the quiet movements of hands that had practiced this ceremony 10,000 times. But Tiano was not a warrior. He had never held a sword. He knew nothing of combat or strategy. He was simply a man who had devoted his life to the way of tea, a path of presence, simplicity, and grace. One day, while walking through the city to prepare tea for a local lord, Tiano accidentally bumped shoulders with a young samurai on a narrow street. It was a small thing, a momentary brush of cloth against cloth. But the samurai was in a foul mood, and he took offense. "You have insulted me," he declared loudly, so everyone nearby could hear. "I demand satisfaction. We will duel at dawn, by the river." Tiano's heart dropped. He had no training with a sword. He had never been in a fight. A duel with an experienced samurai meant certain death. He spent the rest of the day in panic. His mind spun through possibilities. Could he run? Could he hide? Could he send someone in his place? But none of these options were possible, not without bringing shame upon himself and his family. In desperation, he went to visit a sword master known throughout the city, a man who had trained generations of warriors. "Please," Tiano begged, "teach me something, anything that might help me survive tomorrow." The sword master listened, then shook his head sadly. "There is nothing I can teach you in one night that will save you from an experienced samurai. If you face him blade to blade, you will die." Tiano felt his hope vanish. Then, "There is no hope," he whispered. The sword master was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked a question that surprised them both. "Tell me about your tea ceremony. What is it like when you prepare tea?" Tino was confused, but he answered honestly. "When I prepare tea, everything else falls away. There is no past, no future. Only the water, the cup, the movements I've practiced 10,000 times. I am not thinking. I am simply there, completely present, doing what I am doing." "And are you afraid when you make tea?" Tino paused. "Afraid? No, there is no fear. There is no way to be afraid. There is only the ceremony." The sword master nodded slowly. "Then this is my advice tomorrow when you face the samurai. Do not try to fight him. You will lose. Instead, prepare to serve tea. Face your death the same way you prepare your ceremony, with complete presence, with no thought of past or future, with no self to protect or defend." Tino didn't fully understand, but he had no other options. That night, he sat in stillness, not to learn how to fight, but to prepare to die with the same grace with which he had lived. At dawn, he walked to the river. A small crowd had gathered to watch. The samurai stood waiting, sword drawn, stance wide, eyes sharp with aggression. Tiano walked toward him, not with the steps of a warrior, but with the calm pace of a man entering his tea room. He removed his outer robe slowly, folding it with the same care he used in ceremony. He placed it neatly on the ground. He smoothed his inner clothes. He took a breath. Then he looked at the samurai. There was no fear in his eyes, no anger, no desperation, only the same quiet presence he brought to every cup of tea. He reached for his own sword, a ceremonial blade he barely knew how to hold, and raised it overhead. But his movements were not those of a fighter. They were slow, deliberate, like pouring water into a bowl, like placing a cup before a guest. The samurai froze. This was not how opponents behaved. Where was the fear? Where was the trembling? Where was the frantic energy of a man trying to survive? This tea master moved like a man who had already accepted death, who had nothing to lose, who was completely at peace with whatever happened next. And that unnerved the samurai more than any battle cry ever could. He had spent his life fighting men who clung to life, who made mistakes out of panic, whose eyes darted with doubt. But this man was still. And in that stillness, the samurai sensed something he could not name, a depth, a calm, a power that swords could not touch. Long moments passed. Neither man moved. The crowd held its breath. Finally, the samurai lowered his sword. "I withdraw my challenge," he said quietly. "There is nothing to be gained here." And he turned and walked away. Tio stood by the river for a long time, feeling the morning sun on his face, breathing the cool air, alive, not because he had won a fight, but because he had remained himself. This story teaches us something profound about stillness. Stillness is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is not giving up. True stillness is a kind of unshakable strength. When you are fully present, grounded in this breath, this moment, this body, you become very hard to disturb. Anxiety scatters you. It pulls your attention in 10 directions. It makes you weak by making you fragmented. But presence gathers you. It brings you back into wholeness. And in that wholeness, you access your full clarity, your full courage, your full capacity to respond, not react. Tiano didn't become a warrior that day. He remained a tea master, but he discovered that peace itself is a kind of strength, one that warriors, for all their skill, often cannot understand. And now, another story, quieter, but just as powerful. There was a Zen monk named Ryokan who lived alone in a small, leaky hut on a mountainside in Japan over 200 years ago. He owned almost nothing, a few robes, a begging bowl, some brushes for calligraphy. He spent his days writing poetry, playing with village children, and sitting in stillness. People were puzzled by him. He came from a wealthy family. He was brilliant, educated, cultured. He could have had status, comfort, security. Instead, he chose a life of simplicity, of wind through the walls, of rain on the roof, of silence between the songs of birds. One autumn night, a terrible storm rolled over the mountain. The wind howled like a wounded animal. Rain poured in sheets. Lightning split the sky. Inside Ryokan's hut, water dripped from a dozen places in the roof, onto his sleeping mat, onto his few books, onto the earthen floor. The wind found every crack, filling the tiny space with cold and noise. A traveler, caught on the mountain by the storm, took shelter with Ryokan that night. He expected to find the monk frantic, scrambling to save his belongings, cursing his bad luck, shivering in misery. Instead, he found Ryokan sitting calmly in the corner, wrapped in his thin robe, watching the storm through the gaps in the walls. "Aren't you upset?" the visitor asked. "Your home is being destroyed. Everything is getting wet." Ryokan smiled. "The storm is doing what storms do. Should I be angry at the rain for being wet? Should I shout at the wind for blowing? But what will you do?" the visitor pressed. "Right now," Ryokan said, "I am watching a storm. It is quite beautiful, actually. Listen to how the wind sounds in the trees. Look at how the lightning makes everything bright for a moment." The visitor was amazed. But then he added, "And tomorrow, when the storm is over, you'll have to repair your roof, dry your things, clean the mud." "Tomorrow," Ryokan said, "I will do what tomorrow requires. But that is tomorrow. Right now, there is only this storm, this moment, this breath. Why would I ruin this moment by worrying about the next one?" They sat together through the night, and despite the cold, despite the wet, the visitor found himself strangely peaceful, as if Ryokan's calm was a fire he could warm himself by. In the morning, they patched the roof together. Simple work, done in silence, under a clear sky, with birds singing and trees. As the visitor prepared to leave, he asked one last question. "How do you do it? How do you stay so calm when everything is falling apart around you?" Ryokan placed a hand on his chest. "The storm is outside," he said, "but in here, it is always still. I have learned to live from this place, from this quiet center. The world can rage all it wants. It cannot touch what is deepest in me. Can you feel that? That place inside you, beneath the noise, beneath the planning, beneath the what-ifs and if-onlys, where it is always still. You don't need to create it. You only need to remember it. You've touched it before, maybe in the hush of early morning, maybe while holding someone you love, maybe a moment when time seemed to stop. It's always there. And meditation is simply the practice of returning to it, again and again, until you can find it even in the middle of a storm. So let your breath be your anchor now. In and out, soft, slow, natural. You are safe, you are held. And in this moment, just as it is, there is already enough. Let that be true. Let that be enough. Rest now. In the art of stillness, there is a tension inside you right now. You might not have noticed it until this moment, but it's there. In your shoulders, perhaps. In your jaw. In the way you hold your breath without meaning to. In the way you grip, not just your body, but your thoughts, your worries, your stories about how things should be. This gripping is not weakness. It's survival. Your mind believes that if it holds on tightly enough, to control, to plans, to outcomes, to people, it can keep you safe, keep things from falling apart, keep loss at bay. But here's what Zen Buddhism has known for centuries. Suffering is not caused by what happens to you. It's caused by the tightness of your grip around what happens. The Buddha called this upadana, clinging, and he taught that it is the root of our deepest pain, not the event itself, but the way we cling to it, resist it, demand it be different. Letting go is not about indifference. It's not about pretending things don't matter. It's about loving so deeply that you stop trying to control what cannot be controlled. It's about holding life lightly, like water in your cupped hands, not so tight that you crush it, not so loose that it slips through unnoticed. Just open. There is a Zen story, simple, heartbreaking, and profoundly wise, about a master who loved his cup. It wasn't valuable by the world's standards. Just a humble clay cup, handmade, with a small chip on the rim and a glaze worn thin from decades of use. But this cup had been with him every morning for 30 years. He drank his tea from it in silence, watching the steam rise, feeling the warmth seep into his palms. His students noticed how carefully he handled it, how he washed it with tenderness, how he placed it back on its shelf with reverence. Some even wondered, how can a Zen master who teaches non-attachment be so devoted to a single cup? Then one morning, a young student, eager to help, hands still clumsy with inexperience, reached for the cup to dust the shelf beneath it. It slipped, fell, shattered on the stone floor into a dozen pieces. The student froze. His face went pale. He had destroyed the master's most treasured possession. He couldn't speak. He couldn't move. When the master entered the room, he saw the broken shards, the student trembling in shame. There was a long silence. Then the master knelt, not in anger, but in quiet presence, and began to gather the pieces, one by one, as if they were petals from a fallen flower. "I'm so sorry," the student finally whispered. "I know how much this cup meant to you. I've ruined something irreplaceable." The master looked up, his eyes soft. "You haven't ruined anything," he said. "You've simply shown me what was always true." The student frowned. "What do you mean?" The master held up a fragment of the cup, turning it in the morning light. "From the very first day I received this cup, it was already broken." The student stared. The master continued, "Everything that can break will break. Everything that can end will end. This isn't sad news. It's just the truth of how things are." He set the piece down gently. "I loved this cup," he said. "I still love it. But I never made the mistake of thinking it would last forever. Every morning, when I lifted it to my lips, I knew it might be the last time. And that didn't take away from my joy, it deepened it. I was fully present with the cup, because I knew our time together was borrowed." The student sat in silence, the weight of those words settling like dust after a storm. "The cup was always going to break," the master said. "Today, tomorrow, in 100 years, what difference does it make? What matters is that I appreciated it while it was whole. What matters is that I didn't waste our time together worrying about losing it." Then he smiled. "And now, a new teaching begins. How to appreciate the memory of the cup. How to let go of what is gone. How to find peace with empty hands." He stood, looked at the empty space on the shelf, and said, "Clean up these pieces carefully. And thank you. You have given me a good lesson today." The student gathered the shards, wrapped them in cloth, not to throw away, but to keep. Years later, when he had become a teacher himself, he would sometimes take out those broken pieces and show them to his own students. He would say, "This taught me more about letting go than any book or lecture ever could. We can love what is broken. We can find peace with what is gone. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting, it means holding differently. Letting go is not an act of will. It's an act of surrender, of trust. You cannot force yourself to release something. The very effort to let go becomes another form of gripping." There's another story, quieter but just as revealing, about a teacher and her student. This student had been meditating for months. She sat every morning before dawn, posture perfect, breath steady, mind still racing. One day, she came to her teacher in tears. "I'm doing everything right," she said. "I follow the instructions. I try so hard to let go of my thoughts. But nothing works. My mind is just as busy as ever. I feel like I'm failing." The teacher listened. Then she held out her hand. Give me your palm." The student turned her hand up. The teacher placed a small stone in it. "Now," she said, "close your hand around this. Hold it tightly." The student made a fist. "Now," the teacher said, "let go of the stone." The student opened her fingers. The stone rested in her palm. "No," the teacher said gently. "You haven't let go. The stone is still there." The student was confused. "But I opened my hand." "Yes," said the teacher. "But letting go isn't just about releasing your grip. It's about allowing it to fall." She guided the student's hand until it turned palm down. The stone dropped to the floor with a soft clack. "That is letting go." She looked into the student's eyes. "You say you're trying to let go of your thoughts, but trying hard and letting go are opposites. The effort itself is a kind of holding." The student took the stone home. Every day she would hold it, feel its weight, notice the tension in her fingers, and then, without force, without drama, simply turn her hand over. At first, it felt too simple. She kept waiting for a breakthrough, a secret technique, a moment of sudden peace. But her teacher only said, "Keep practicing with the stone." Weeks passed, and slowly, something changed. During meditation, when a thought arose, instead of fighting it or judging herself for having it, she would imagine turning her hand over and let it fall. She realized she had been clinging, not just to thoughts, but to her idea of what peace should feel like, to her belief that she had to achieve stillness to be worthy of it. And that belief was the very thing keeping her from it. One morning she came to her teacher with tears in her eyes, but this time they were tears of relief. "I finally understand," she said. "I was holding on to letting go. I was trying to achieve non-attachment. The contradiction was right there, but I couldn't see it." Her teacher smiled. "And now, I just sit. Thoughts come, I let them go. Feelings come, I let them go. I'm not trying to get anywhere. I'm just here." "Good," said the teacher. "You have learned the lesson of the stone. Letting go is not about losing what you love. It's about loving without the fear that poisons love. It's about releasing the story that says, if I let go, I'll lose everything. When in truth, only in letting go do you find space to truly hold what matters. You've been taught to grip, to survive. But now, you are safe enough to soften. So let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your breath flow out, longer than it came in. And as you do, ask yourself gently, what am I holding on to right now? A worry about tomorrow? A regret from yesterday? A need for things to be different than they are? You don't have to solve it. You don't have to release it forever. Just loosen your grip, just for this breath. Feel the weight of your body on the bed, solid, real, held. And know this, you are not failing because you still feel anxious. You are practicing because you are human. Letting go is not a destination. It's a daily returning, a softening, a whisper. It's okay. You can rest now. There is no rush, no perfect moment, just this one. And in this one, you are enough. This is enough. So let your hand open. Let what needs to fall, fall. And trust that what remains is not emptiness, but space, freedom, peace. Rest here now, in the gentle art of release. There is a quiet truth at the heart of all Buddhist teaching. So simple it's often overlooked, so ordinary it seems almost too gentle to be useful. But once you see it clearly, it changes everything. Anxiety cannot exist in the present moment. It feels like it's happening now. Your heart races, your breath tightens, your thoughts spin in urgent circles. But if you look carefully, with the same curiosity you might use to watch raindrops slide down a window, you'll notice something strange. Anxiety is never about this breath. It's never about this sensation in your body. It's never about this sound, this touch, this light. Anxiety lives in the future you haven't lived yet, in imagined disasters, in rehearsed conversations, in catastrophes that may never come. Or it lives in the past, in regrets you can't undo, in words you wish you hadn't said, in moments you believe you ruined. But right now, as your chest rises and falls, as your fingers rest on the blanket, as your eyes move across these words, nothing is actually wrong. You are safe, you are breathing, you are here. And in this moment, just as it is, there is already enough. Zen masters have known this for centuries. They don't offer elaborate techniques to destroy anxiety. They simply invite you back, again and again, to the only place where peace is possible, now. Now. Not the idea of now. Not the memory of a peaceful moment. Not the hope for calm tomorrow. But this now. This breath. This heartbeat. This quiet space between one thought and the next. There's a Zen story so famous it has been told for over 1,000 years, passed from teacher to student like a sacred thread, because it captures this truth with perfect simplicity. It's the story of the man, the tiger, and the strawberry. A man was walking alone through a forest at dawn. The air was cool, birds sang in the trees, sunlight filtered through the leaves, but then, a rustle. He turned and saw a tiger emerging from the brush. Its eyes locked onto his, muscles coiled, tail flicked. Without thinking, a man ran. Branches whipped his face. Thorns tore at his clothes. His heart pounded like a drum in his ribs. Behind him, the tiger gained ground, its breath hot, its growl growing louder. He ran until the forest ended, and there before him, a sheer cliff. He skidded to a stop. Pebbles tumbled into the abyss below. No way forward, no way back. But then, a vine, thick, strong, dangling over the edge into mist. He grabbed it and swung himself over, climbing down as fast as he could. Above, the tiger paced the cliff edge, snarling in frustration. The man sighed in relief for a moment. Then he looked down. At the base of the cliff, another tiger waited, eyes raised, mouth open. Patient, he was trapped between two tigers, clinging to a vine over an empty void. And then, a tiny sound above him. He looked up. Two mice, one white, one black, gnawing at the vine where it met the cliff. Nibble, nibble. Each bite frayed the fibers. It was only a matter of time before the vine snapped, and he fell. Tiger above, tiger below. Mice chewing, no escape. He closed his eyes. This was it. But then, he opened them, and there, growing from a crack in the rock just within reach, a single wild strawberry, plump, red, glistening with dew. He looked at the tiger above. He looked at the tiger below. He felt the vine tremble, and then he reached out, plucked the strawberry, and put it in his mouth. How sweet it tasted! The story ends there. We don't know if he lived or died. We don't know if the vine held or broke. We don't know if one of the tigers found a way down. And that's the point. The story isn't about survival. It's about presence. Even in the most terrifying moment, even when death feels certain, there is still a strawberry. There is still beauty. There is still sweetness. There is still now. You are that man. The tigers are your past regrets and future fears. The mice are time itself, each second passing, each moment slipping away. You hang between them, uncertain, fragile, temporary. But the strawberry, that's this breath, that's this sound, that's this feeling of your body on the bed. Anxiety says, you can't rest yet, there's too much to fix. But presence whispers, taste the strawberry. It doesn't deny the tigers. It doesn't pretend the vine isn't fraying. It simply says, this moment is still here and is still sweet. Most of us miss the strawberry. We're so busy scanning for danger, so lost in the story of what might happen, that we never notice what is happening. We eat meals while planning. We walk while worrying. We lie in comfortable beds while rehashing old pain. We are almost never where we are, and anxiety thrives in that gap. It grows stronger every time you abandon the present for a future that doesn't exist or a past that can't be changed. But when you return, even for one breath, you step out of anxiety's grip. Not because the tigers disappear, but because you stop feeding them with your attention. There's another story, this one from ancient China, about a wealthy merchant who came to visit a Zen master. This merchant had everything the world said would bring happiness. A grand house, fine clothes, a successful business, servants at his every call. But he was miserable. His mind never stopped. He worried about competitors. He obsessed over profits. He lay awake at night, imagining ruin. He heard of a Zen master known for his deep peace, so he traveled for days to the master's simple mountain temple. When he arrived, breathless and urgent, he poured out his troubles. My business is failing. My rivals are stealing my customers. I can't sleep. I can't enjoy my food. Please, teach me how to find peace. The master said nothing. He simply gestured for the merchant to sit. Then he picked up a teapot and began to pour tea into the merchant's cup. The cup filled. Halfway, 3/4, to the brim. Still, the master poured. Tea spilled over the rim. It ran across the table. It dripped to the floor. Stop, the merchant cried. Can't you see the cup is full? No more will go in. The master set down the pot and looked at him gently. You are like this cup, he said. You come asking for wisdom, for peace, for relief. But your mind is already overflowing with thoughts, worries, plans. There is no room for anything new. The merchant fell silent. He looked at the puddle of tea on the floor, and something loosened in his chest. What should I do? He asked, voice softer now. First, said the master, empty the cup. He didn't mean discard your life. He didn't mean abandon your responsibilities. He meant create space. Let go of just one thought. Release just one worry. Come back to this breath, because peace doesn't live in the solution to your problems. It lives in the space between your thoughts, in the quiet moment when you stop spinning and simply are. The merchant stayed at the temple for 3 days. He didn't receive secret mantras or magical rituals. He simply practiced one thing. When drinking tea, just drink tea. Not tea while planning tomorrow's meeting. Not tea while regretting yesterday's mistake. Just tea. The warmth of the cup, the steam rising, the taste on his tongue. At first his mind rebelled. It pulled him back to his business, his fears, his endless calculations. But each time he noticed he drifted, he returned, gently, without judgment. By the 3rd day, something had shifted. His thoughts hadn't stopped, but they no longer filled his entire cup. There was room now for the taste of tea, for the sound of wind in the trees, for a moment of quiet joy in the middle of his complicated life. When he left, the master gave him one final teaching. The cup will fill again. This is the nature of the human mind. Don't wait until you're drowning in thoughts to remember presence. Practice a little every day. Drink 1 cup of tea with full attention. Take 1 walk where you notice the world instead of your worries. These small moments keep the cup from overflowing. The merchant returned to his business, but he was changed, not because his circumstances improved, but because he had learned to empty his cup. He discovered that peace wasn't something he had to earn. It was something he could touch any time, simply by being fully where he was. Years later, as an old man, he would tell this story to his grandchildren. He'd pour tea until it overflowed, making them laugh at the mess, then say, "This teaching was worth more than all the gold I ever earned," because gold is spent. But the ability to return to now, that stays with you your whole life. You don't need a mountain temple. You don't need to be a monk or a master. You just need to notice, right now, that you are here. Feel your next breath enter your body. Cool air at your nostrils, warm air leaving. Hear the sounds around you, not as distractions, but as part of this moment. Feel the weight of your legs on the bed, the rise and fall of your abdomen, the softness of your pillow. This is presence. This is the refuge. Anxiety lives in stories about what might happen, but this moment, as it actually is almost always okay. You are not in danger right now. You are not lost. You are not failing. You are a human being, resting, listening, breathing, and that is enough. You will drift away 1,000 times tonight. Your mind will wander into tomorrow, into yesterday, into what ifs and if onlys. That's not failure. That's being human. The practice is simply this. When you notice you've drifted, return. Feel your breath. Feel your body. Come back to now. Every return is a homecoming. Every return is peace. So let your thoughts come and go like clouds. Let your worries pass like wind through trees, and in the space between them, rest. You are safe. You are held. And in this moment, just as it is, you are already home. Taste the strawberry. There is a truth woven into the very fabric of existence, so fundamental, so constant, that you felt it your whole life. Even when you didn't have words for it, everything changes. The seasons shift. The moon waxes and wanes. Your body breathes in and out, never holding a single breath forever. Thoughts arise and dissolve. Feelings swell and fade. Relationships begin, and sometimes they end. Nothing stays. And yet, something in you resists this. You want the good moments to last. The quiet mornings. The laughter with a loved one. The rare days when anxiety takes a break. And you want the hard moments to vanish. The grief, the fear, the nights when sleep won't come. But life doesn't bend to your wishes. It flows, like a river, carrying everything with it. Zen Buddhism doesn't ask you to fight this flow. It invites you to join it. Because here's the secret the anxious mind forgets. If everything changes, then your anxiety must change too. Right now, as heavy as it feels, as permanent as it seems, this state is not fixed. It is temporary. It is weather passing through the sky of your awareness. The Buddha called this anicca, impermanence, and he taught it not as a reason to despair, but as a path to freedom. When you truly understand that nothing lasts, you stop clinging so tightly to what you love, and you stop fighting so desperately against what you fear. You begin to move through life with a lighter heart, a softer grip, a deeper trust in the rhythm of change. There's a story from over 2,500 years ago, one of the most beloved in all of Buddhist literature, about a young mother named Kisa Gotami. She lived in a small village in ancient India. Poor, overlooked, she spent her days serving her husband's family with little gratitude. But then, she gave birth to a son, and everything changed. For the first time she was seen, she was honored, she was loved, not for what she did, but simply for who she had become, a mother. She poured her whole heart into that child. She held him through fevers. She sang him to sleep. She watched him take his first steps. He was her joy, her meaning, her reason to wake each morning. Then, when he was still very young, just a boy, really, he fell ill. It happened quickly. Fever, weakness, silence. One day he was playing in the courtyard. A few days later, he was gone. Kisa Gotami held his small body in her arms and refused to believe it. "This cannot be," she whispered. "There must be a cure. There must be someone who can bring him back." She carried him through the village, knocking on every door, begging for medicine, pleading with neighbors, refusing to accept what had happened. People looked at her with pity. Some tried to comfort her. Others turned away, unable to bear her raw grief. But Kisa Gotami would not let go, until someone said, "Go to the Buddha. He is teaching nearby. Perhaps he can help." Desperate, she walked to where the Buddha sat beneath a tree, still cradling her son's body. Her eyes wild with hope, she fell at his feet and begged, "Great teacher, please, give me medicine to bring my child back to life." The Buddha looked at her with deep compassion. He did not scold her for her denial. He did not tell her to move on or accept reality. Instead, he said gently, "I can help you, but first, you must bring me one thing. Go back to the village and bring me a single mustard seed, but it must come from a house where no one has ever died. No parent, no child, no spouse, no sibling, a house untouched by death." Kisa Gotami's heart leapt. "A mustard seed? That's all?" She bowed quickly and ran back to the village, still holding her son, already imagining his eyes opening again. She knocked on the first door. An old woman answered. "Do you have a mustard seed?" Kisa asked. "Yes, of course," the woman said. "But why do you need it?" Kisa explained. "It's for the Buddha, but it must come from a house where no one has ever died." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. "My husband passed 2 winters ago," she said softly. "I still set a place for him at the table." Kisa Gotami moved to the next house. Yes, they had mustard seeds, but their daughter had died in childbirth. They kept her sandals by the door, just in case she came home. She went to the next house, and the next, and the next. Every home had mustard seeds, but every home had also known death. A father lost at sea, a baby who never took its first breath, an elder who slipped away in sleep. She walked the entire village, twice, knocking on every door, asking the same question, and always the same answer. Death had visited every home. Finally, at sunset, exhausted and hollow, she sat beneath a banyan tree at the edge of the village. For the first time since her son died, she stopped running. She looked at his face, pale, still, peaceful, and she understood. There was no house untouched by death. Because death is part of life, not a punishment, not a mistake, but a universal truth. She had not been singled out. She was not alone. She was part of the great human family, all of whom love, all of whom lose, all of whom carry grief in their hearts. That night, under a full moon, she buried her son with her own hands. She wept, not the frantic, resisting tears of the morning, but deep, quiet sobs that came from a place of acceptance. And in that weeping, something released. Not her love for her son, that remained, but the sharp edge of her suffering softened. She returned to the Buddha the next day, empty-handed, but somehow full. She asked to become his student, and she did, not to forget her son, but to learn how to live with loss without being destroyed by it. Years later, she became known as one of the Buddha's wisest disciples, especially skilled at comforting those overwhelmed by grief. She would sit with them in silence, hold their hands, and simply say, "You are not alone. This pain is real, but it will not last forever, and you will learn to carry it, not as a burden, but as proof that you loved deeply." Kisa Gotami's story teaches us something vital about anxiety. You are not broken because you suffer. You are human. And because you are human, your suffering is not permanent. Just as every storm passes, so too will this wave of anxiety. You've felt this before, maybe last week, maybe years ago, and you thought it would never end, but it did. You're here now, listening to these words, breathing this breath, which means you survived. Not because you did something grand, but because impermanence is the law of life. What arises must also pass. There's another teaching, quieter, but just as powerful, about a young monk who came to monastic life hoping to find peace. But instead of peace, he found his mind more chaotic than ever. Without distractions, no phone, no news, no entertainment, he was left alone with his thoughts, and they were relentless. He went to an old nun who had practiced for 50 years. "I came here to find calm," he said, voice trembling. "But all I find is storm. My mind won't stop. I don't think I can do this." The nun listened quietly. Then she walked to the window. Outside, dark clouds gathered. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Rain began to fall. "Do you see that storm?" she asked. "Yes," the monk said. "Has a storm ever lasted forever?" she asked. The monk thought. "No, storms always pass." "Exactly," she said. "Your mind is weather, not climate. Climate is the long-term pattern. Weather is what's happening right now. And weather always changes." She turned to him, her eyes kind but firm. "When the storm is raging, it feels like it will never end. That's the nature of storms. But you have lived long enough to know every anxious thought you've ever had has ended. Every dark night has given way to dawn. Every time you were sure you couldn't go on, you did." The monk sat in silence. He remembered, yes, he had felt this despair before. And each time, it passed, not because he fixed himself, but because nothing stays. "So what do I do?" he asked. "You don't fight the storm," she said. "You take shelter. You wait. And you remind yourself, as many times as you need to, this is temporary." She smiled. "And with practice, you'll stop believing the storm is who you are. You'll remember, you are the sky. The storm is just passing through." The monk returned to his cushion. And when anxiety arose, he no longer fought it. He simply whispered, "This is weather. This too shall pass." Sometimes he had to say it 100 times, but slowly. The storms lost their power to terrify him. He learned to wait, to trust, to rest in the truth of impermanence. And you can too. Right now, as you lie in bed, feeling the weight of worry, remember, this state is not permanent. It arose. It will pass. You have survived every difficult moment so far, not by being perfect, but by being here, breathing, enduring, trusting, even a little. That change is always coming. Anxiety tells you, this will never end. You'll always feel this way. But impermanence whispers back, everything flows, even this. So let yourself soften. You don't have to fix your feelings. You don't have to reason with your fear. Just remember, you are not your storm. You are the vast open sky, calm, clear, unshaken, holding all weather with quiet acceptance. Let that be true. Let that be enough. And as you rest, trust that peace is already returning. There is a quiet whisper beneath all your striving, so soft you may have missed it for years. You already have enough. Not everything you want. Not the perfect life you imagine in your mind. Not the version of you that's finally fixed. But enough, as in, this breath is enough. This heartbeat is enough. This body resting on this bed is enough. Zen Buddhism calls this santosha, contentment. It is not resignation. It is not settling. It is not pretending your problems don't exist. It is the radical act of being here, fully, gently, gratefully, with life exactly as it is right now. Most of us have been trained to believe the opposite. That peace comes after the promotion, after the weight is lost, after the anxiety is gone, after you finally become who you think you should be. But what if peace is not waiting for you in the future? What if it's already here, hidden in plain sight, in the ordinary moments you rush past while chasing something better? There's an ancient story, told across many cultures, about a stone cutter who lived at the foot of a great mountain. He spent his days chiseling rock, his hands rough, his back aching, his clothes stained with dust. He had a simple home, a kind wife, rice at every meal. By any honest measure, he had a good life. But he didn't see it that way. Every day he looked at others and felt lacking. The merchants wore silk. The officials rode in palanquins. Even the sun seemed more powerful than he was. One afternoon, while delivering stone to a wealthy man's estate, he saw the merchant reclining on silk cushions, servants fanning him, food served on golden plates. How wonderful it must be to be a merchant, he sighed. To have such ease, such comfort, such power. And in that moment, through some ancient grace, his wish was granted. He became the merchant, silk against his skin, delicacies on his tongue. People bowed as he passed. For a while he was happy. But then summer came, scorching, relentless. He sweated through his fine robes, while outside, he saw a high official pass beneath a canopy, shielded from the sun, carried by strong men, cool and untouched by the heat. Ah, he thought, to be an official, that is true power. And again, his wish was granted. He became the official. But soon he noticed, even his canopy couldn't stop the drought. Crops withered, rivers dried, the sun blazed down, indifferent to his rank. The sun is more powerful than any man, he realized. I wish to be the sun. And he became the sun. Blazing, burning, commanding the earth below, he felt truly mighty. Until a cloud drifted across the sky. Soft, quiet, and completely unstoppable by his rays. The cloud is more powerful than the sun, he admitted. I wished to be the cloud. He became the cloud, gathering storms, flooding fields, filling rivers. But then the wind came, howling fierce, tearing him apart, scattering him across the heavens. The wind is more powerful than the cloud, he cried. I wish to be the wind. He became the wind, bending trees, whipping waves, terrifying sailors. But then, he met the mountain. He blew with all his force, screamed around its peaks, beat against its face for days. And the mountain? It did not move. Not an inch. The mountain is more powerful than the wind, he whispered. I wish to be the mountain. And he became the mountain, tall, ancient, unmoving. The sun beat upon him, The wind howled around him. The clouds passed over him. He was the most powerful thing of all, until he felt a small, persistent tap, tap, tap at his base. He looked down. A stone cutter, humble, calloused, focused, was chipping away at his stone. And in that moment, the man understood. He had traveled through every form of power, every dream of more, every fantasy of being someone else, only to return to where he began. But this time, he saw it clearly. The stone cutter wasn't wishing to be the sun. He wasn't envious of clouds or mountains. He was simply there, doing his work, present, whole. The spell broke. The man found himself back in his village, hammer in hand, sunset gilding the quarry dust. His back still ached. His hands were still rough. But something had changed. He looked at his wife as she called him for dinner, not with longing for silk robes, but with quiet gratitude for her voice, for the smell of rice, for the ordinary miracle of being alive. At the table, he ate slowly, tasting each grain, feeling the warmth of the bowl, hearing the crickets outside. "You seem different," his wife said. "I went on a long journey today," he replied, "and I ended up right back here. And for the first time, I don't want to be anywhere else." He lived the rest of his days as a stone cutter. He never became famous. He never grew rich. But he had discovered something wealth and fame can never buy: the peace of being exactly who you are, in exactly this life, without needing it to be anything else. This story isn't about giving up. It's about waking up. Waking up to the truth that anxiety often lives in the gap between your life as it is and your mind's relentless story about how it should be. "I'd be happy if only." "I can't rest until." "Something's missing." These thoughts are not truth. They are habits of a mind trained by a culture that profits from your dissatisfaction. From ads that say you need more. From social media that shows only highlight reels. From a world that equates worth with achievement. But Zen whispers something else. You are enough. This moment is enough. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. There's another teaching, simpler, quieter, about a student who came to a Zen master deeply frustrated. "Master," he said, "I understand the teachings about contentment. I know I should be grateful, but I'm not. I still want more. I still feel empty. What's wrong with me?" The master invited him to share the midday meal. They sat together. The master served rice and vegetables. Nothing fancy, just simple food. As they ate, the master chewed slowly, eyes half closed, as if tasting something sacred. The student, meanwhile, ate quickly, mind racing, still fixated on his question, on his lack, on his failure to achieve contentment. When the bowls were empty, the master asked gently, "Did you taste the rice?" The student hesitated. "I ate it." "That's not what I asked. Did you taste it?" The student realized he had not. He had consumed fuel while his mind was elsewhere. "Most people," the master said, "eat their rice while thinking about 1,000 other things. They lie in comfortable beds while worrying about disasters that may never come. They walk through gardens without seeing the flowers. And then they wonder why they're not content." He leaned forward. "You say you want to be content with what you have, but you're never actually with what you have. Your body is here. Your mind is always somewhere else, reaching, comparing, demanding. How can you know if this moment is enough if you've never truly arrived in it?" The student began to practice differently. not by trying to feel content, but by simply being present. When eating, just eating. When walking, just walking. When lying down, just lying down. At first, his mind rebelled. It had spent decades chasing the next thing. But slowly, he began to notice small gifts he'd always missed. The warmth of sunlight on his face. The quiet hum of evening insects. The deep relief of a full breath after a long day. One morning, he woke before dawn and simply lay in bed. Not planning, not worrying, just feeling the rise and fall of his chest, listening to the birds begin their song. And he realized, this is enough. Not because everything was perfect, but because he was here, fully, gently, gratefully, for the ordinary miracle of being alive. He still had wants, he still had goals, but they no longer ruled him. He could want something and still be at peace. He could prefer a different outcome and still accept what was. The wanting was there, but he was no longer its prisoner. You don't need to travel through suns and clouds and mountains to find this truth. You can begin right now. Feel your next breath, not as a means to an end, but as a gift in itself. Hear the silence between these words, not as emptiness, but as space, as rest, as enough. You are not failing because you still feel restless. You are human, and in this human life, with all its imperfections, with all its ordinary moments, there is already enough. You don't need to earn peace. You don't need to fix yourself first. You only need to notice, right here, right now, that you are safe, you are breathing, you are held, and that is more than enough. Rest in that. Let it be true. Let it be enough. Beneath all your thoughts, beneath all your feelings, beneath the roles you play, worker, parent, friend, worrier, there is a quiet question the Zen tradition has returned to for over 1,000 years. Who are you, really? Not who you think you should be, not who others say you are, not the story you tell yourself about your past, your flaws, your fears, but who is it that notices your breath, that hears these words, that feels the weight of your body on the bed? Zen doesn't ask you to answer with words. It invites you to look, because in that looking, in that gentle turning of attention inward, you may discover something astonishing. Your true nature has never been anxious. Anxiety comes and goes, like clouds across the sky. But the sky itself, it remains, vast, clear, undisturbed. Buddhism calls this your Buddha nature, not a special title for monks or saints, but the innate capacity for awareness, peace, and compassion that lives in every human being. You don't need to create it. You don't need to earn it. It has been here all along, waiting not to be built, but to be remembered. There's a story from ancient China about two monks who were walking through a marketplace on a windy afternoon. Above them, a banner fluttered violently in the gusts. One monk turned to the other and said, "Do you see how the flag is moving?" The second monk shook his head. "No," he replied. "It's not the flag that's moving. It's the wind." They stood there, each certain of his own view, until their teacher, who had been walking ahead, turned and said gently, "Neither the flag nor the wind is moving. It is your mind that is moving." The monks fell silent, because in that moment, they saw it. The flag was just fabric. The wind was just air. The movement was real, but the disturbance was happening inside them. Their minds had immediately jumped to interpretation. What's moving? Who's right? What does this mean? But the teacher pointed beyond interpretation, to the quiet awareness behind the thoughts, the still space within which all experience arises. That space is who you are. Not the moving flag, not the blowing wind, but the open sky that holds them both. Anxiety feels so personal, so much like you, because it fills your whole field of awareness. It's like standing so close to a painting that you can't see the whole image, only the brushstrokes, the texture, the chaos. But what if you could step back, not to escape your feelings, but to remember you are not the storm. You are the one who sees the storm. There's another teaching, this one told by the great Zen master Dogen, about the moon reflected on water. Imagine a calm pond on a still night. The full moon hangs in the sky. Its reflection glows on the surface. Perfect, whole, serene. Now imagine a storm rolls in. Wind whips the water. Waves rise and crash. The moon's reflection shatters into 1,000 fragments, dancing, twisting, disappearing. If you were to look only at the water, you might think the moon itself had broken. But the moon in the sky, it remains whole, untouched, undimmed. It never entered the water, it was never harmed by the waves. Zen says, your mind is the pond, your thoughts and emotions are the waves, but your true self is the moon, always whole, always clear, always above the chaos. You've seen this. Even in your deepest anxiety, there is a part of you that knows you're anxious, that watches the panic rise, that notices the tightness in your chest. Who is that? It is not the anxiety. It is the awareness of the anxiety. And that awareness is unshaken. No thought can stain it. No fear can destroy it. No amount of mental weather can dim its light. You don't need to calm your mind to find it. You only need to notice that it's already here. As the space in which everything appears. There's a simple question Zen teachers have given students for centuries. What is aware of your thoughts right now? Not what are your thoughts, but what is aware of them. Try it. A thought arises. I'm not falling asleep. But before you get caught in that story, ask gently, who notices that thought? Another thought. This anxiety will never end. Pause and ask, who is aware of that fear? You won't find an answer in words, but if you stay with the question, softly, patiently, you may feel a shift, like turning from the waves to the moon, like stepping out of the storm into still air. You are not the content of your mind. You are the consciousness that holds it. And that consciousness, that quiet, luminous presence, has never been broken. There's a story about a young woman who came to a Zen teacher after years of severe anxiety. I feel like I'm falling apart, she said, voice trembling, like there's a hole inside me that will never be filled, like I'm fundamentally flawed. The teacher listened, then asked, show me this broken self. The woman frowned. I don't know how, I just feel it. Then let's look together, the teacher said. Close your eyes. Feel your breath. She did. Now, the teacher continued, where exactly do you feel broken? Is it in your chest, your head, your stomach? The woman placed a hand on her chest. It's here. A heavy, hollow feeling. Good, the teacher said. Now, who is feeling that heaviness? The woman paused. I am. And who is that? The teacher asked. Is it the heaviness, or the one who feels the heaviness? A long silence. Then the woman whispered, it's the one who feels it. Exactly, the teacher said. So the heaviness is present, but you, the one who feels it, are not the same as the heaviness. You are the space that holds it. She opened her eyes, tears welling, but that space, it feels so fragile. Is it? The teacher asked. You've been through loss, fear, doubt, sleepless nights. And yet, here you are, still aware, still present. Has that awareness ever been destroyed? The woman thought. No, she said softly. It's always been there, even in the darkest moments. Then it is not fragile, the teacher said. It is unbreakable. She returned home that day not fixed, but changed. She still felt anxiety, but she no longer believed it was who she was. When fear arose, she would place a hand on her chest and whisper, "This is weather. I am the sky." And in that remembering, she found a peace that didn't depend on her mind being calm. Because peace wasn't in the pond, it was in the moon, always whole, always shining. Even when its reflection seemed shattered. You don't need to become anyone new tonight. You don't need to fix your thoughts or earn your worth. You only need to fix your thoughts or earn your worth. You only need to remember you are already whole. Not in some future when anxiety is gone, but right now, in the middle of your messy human experience. The part of you that hears these words, that's not broken. The part of you that feels your breath, that's not flawed. The part of you that longs for peace, that's not a mistake. It's your Buddha nature calling you home. So let yourself rest in that truth. You are not your worries. You are the quiet presence that holds them. You are not your racing thoughts. You are the still awareness beneath them. You are not the choppy water. You are the moon, always whole, always clear, always enough. Feel that now, not as a belief, but as a direct experience. Let your breath be soft. Let your body be heavy. And in the space between one thought and the next, rest as who you truly are. Unshaken, undimmed, already home. You've heard so many teachings tonight. Stories of empty boats, broken cups, tigers and strawberries, leaky huts in storms, moonlight on choppy water. And perhaps you're wondering, what do I do with all this? How do I actually bring this peace into my real life? The answer is simpler than you think. It's not about remembering every story. It's not about perfecting your meditation. It's not about never feeling anxious again. It's about returning again and again, gently, without judgment, without urgency. Because here's the secret the Zen masters have whispered for centuries. Awakening isn't a single event. It's a lifetime of small returns. You will drift away 1,000 times a day. Your mind will spin into tomorrow's worries. It will replay yesterday's regrets. It will build stories about who you are, what you lack, what might go wrong. This is not failure. This is being human. The practice is not in never drifting. The practice is in noticing you've drifted and coming back. Every time you do this, even for one breath, you are waking up. You are remembering. You are practicing peace. There's a teaching often repeated in Zen monasteries. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The activities don't change. Life doesn't become dramatic or magical. You still have bills, worries, sleepless nights, messy emotions. But your relationship to all of it changes. Before, you were lost in the dream of thought, chopping wood while worrying about dinner, carrying water while replaying an argument. After, you chop wood, and just chop wood. You carry water, and just carry water. You are there, not because you've become someone new, but because you've learned to return to who you've always been. This is not a destination. It's a rhythm, a gentle cadence of forgetting and remembering, and every return is holy. There's a story about a student who practiced meditation for years but grew increasingly frustrated. I sit every morning, he told his teacher. I focus on my breath, but within 5 minutes, I'm lost in thought, planning, worrying, remembering. I spend most of the time far away from my cushion, Am I even doing this right? The teacher smiled. Tell me, he said, how do you know you've been lost in thought? The student paused. Because I notice I'm not on the breath anymore. Exactly, said the teacher. That noticing is the practice, not the perfect focus, not the absence of wandering. But the moment you wake up and realize you've drifted, that is enlightenment. The student was surprised. But I wake up 100 times in one sitting. Then you've had 100 moments of awakening, the teacher said. That's not failure, that's devotion. He leaned closer. The mind will wander, that's its nature. But you, the awareness behind the mind, are always here, waiting to be remembered. Your job isn't to stop the wandering. It's to keep returning, again and again, like a leaf floating back to the surface of a pond. The student left that day with a new understanding. He stopped judging himself for drifting. He stopped thinking his meditation was bad because his mind was busy. Instead, every time he noticed he'd wandered, he would whisper softly, "Ah, here I am again." And gently, without force, he would return to his breath. Over time, something shifted, not because his mind became silent, but because his relationship to the noise changed. He no longer feared it. He no longer fought it. He simply met it with kindness and returned to now. This is the heart of the path. Not perfection, but patience. Not control, but compassion. Not fixing, but waking up. Again and again. You don't need hours of meditation to practice this. You can do it in the smallest moments of your day. When you're washing dishes and your mind jumps to tomorrow's meeting, return to the warmth of the water, the sound of clinking plates, the feel of soap on your skin. When you're lying in bed and anxiety whispers that you'll never sleep, return to the weight of your body on the mattress, the slow rise and fall of your belly, the quiet hum of the night when you're walking and your thoughts spiral into old wounds. Return to your feet touching the ground, the rhythm of your steps, the air on your face. Each return is a homecoming. Each return is as a quiet act of love. For this moment, for this life, for yourself, and you will forget. Oh, you will forget many times every day. But that's not the end of the path. That's where the path begins. Because every time you remember, no matter how briefly, you strengthen the neural pathways of peace. You train your nervous system to rest. You remind your heart that it is safe. This is how healing happens. Not in giant leaps, but in tiny, consistent returns. There's a phrase in Zen, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. It doesn't say, never fall. It doesn't say, only stand if you're perfect. It says, keep returning. Even if you fall 1,000 times, stand up one more time than that. Even if your mind wanders 100 times in 5 minutes, come back one more time than that. That's the practice. And it's enough. Now, as you listen in the quiet of your bed, let yourself practice this return, not as a task, but as a gift. Feel your next breath, not to fix anything, not to force calm, just to notice it. And if your mind is busy, if it's planning, worrying, analyzing, that's okay. Don't push it away. Don't scold yourself. Just whisper softly, "Ah, I've drifted," and return to your breath, to your body, to this moment. You don't have to stay here forever. You don't have to get it right. You just have to come back once, and then again, and again, like a gentle tide, coming in, going out, coming in. Each return is a stitch in the fabric of your peace. Each return is a quiet rebellion against the chaos of the world. Each return says, I am here, I am present, I am not lost. And in that returning, you remember who you are, not the one who's anxious, not the one who's anxious, not the one who's failing, but the one who notices, with kindness, with patience, with love. So let yourself drift, and let yourself return. There is no rush, no pressure, just this breath, just this moment, just this moment, just this gentle, endless practice of coming home. Rest now in the rhythm of return. We have walked a long path together tonight, through misty rivers and empty boats, through broken cups and strawberries on cliffs, through storms and leaky huts and monks watching beetles in gardens, through mustard seeds, stone cutters, and tea ceremonies in the face of death. And beneath every story, beneath every teaching, there has been one quiet truth, not shouted, not forced, but offered gently, like a lantern held out in the dark. You are already whole. You do not need to become calm to be worthy of peace. You do not need to silence your mind to belong here. You do not need to fix your anxiety to be loved by others or by yourself. Because the peace you seek is not something you build, it is something you uncover, like still water beneath ripples, like the moon behind clouds, like the sky that holds every storm without being harmed. And that peace is not out there. It is in here, in the very awareness that is listening to these words right now. Not the thoughts about these words, not the judgments, the hopes, the fears that arise as you listen, but the quiet presence behind them, the space in which they appear, the calm that has been watching your whole life, even when you forgot it was there. This is your true nature. Buddhism calls it Buddha nature. Zen calls it your original face. The face you had before you were born, before you were told who you should be, before anxiety learned your name. It is not a special state for monks or mystics. It is the simple, ordinary fact that you are aware, and that awareness, gentle, open, unshaken, has never been broken by a single anxious thought. Think about it. Right now, as your chest rises and falls, as your eyelids grow heavy, as your body softens into the bed, you are here, not because you did anything right, not because your mind is quiet, but simply because you are. And that is enough. There is a story, so short it fits in a single breath, that contains the whole teaching. A student once asked a Zen master, "What is the most important thing?" The master replied, "Attention." "And the second most important thing?" "Attention." "And the third?" "Attention." That's it. Not perfect concentration, not endless stillness, not freedom from thought, just attention, just this moment, just this breath, just this returning, again and again, to what is. Because every time you notice you've drifted, every time you feel your breath, every time you hear the quiet between words, you are not just calming your mind, you are remembering who you are. You are the sky. Thoughts are clouds. Emotions are weather. Anxiety is a passing storm. And the sky? It never trembles. It never breaks. It simply holds, with infinite kindness, everything that arises within it. This is not poetry. This is direct experience. You've touched it before. Maybe in childhood, lying in grass, watching stars. Maybe in grief, when the world went quiet and all that was left was presence. Maybe in joy, when time stopped and you were just there, fully, completely. Those moments weren't rare gifts. They were glimpses of your true home. And you can return there, not by effort, but by softening, by letting go, by resting as what you already are. The Buddha knew this. On the day he died, old, frail, lying beneath twin sal trees, he gathered his closest students. They wept. They begged him, "Who will guide us when you are gone? Where do we turn for wisdom?" And with his final breath, he gave them the simplest, most radical instruction: be a lamp unto yourself, not a follower of a teacher, not a seeker of distant truths, but a light unto yourself. Because the light was never outside you. It has always been within, the quiet awareness that knows your breath, that hears these words, that feels the weight of your body on the bed. You don't need to earn it. You don't need to purify yourself first. You only need to turn toward it, like a tired traveler finally recognizing their own front door. So let yourself come home now. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts drift like leaves on a river, seen but not followed. Let your body sink deeper into stillness, and in the space between one breath and the next, rest. Not as someone trying to fall asleep, not as someone struggling with anxiety, but as awareness itself, vast, quiet, unbroken. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to fix, nothing more to understand. You are safe, you are held, you are already whole. And in this wholeness, in this simple, ordinary act of being present, you find the calm that no storm can touch. Now, let us rest. Let your attention soften, like moonlight on still water, like breath returning to the earth, like a child finally home. Feel your next inhale, gentle, natural, as if the universe is breathing you. Feel your exhale, longer, softer, as if releasing everything you've been carrying. And with every breath you return to stillness, to presence, to your true nature. There is no rush, no destination, just this. And in this, you are enough. You always have been. Sleep now, dear one. You are home. Rest as awareness. Let everything else come and go. The thoughts may return. The worries may whisper. But you are the quiet beneath them. The calm that was never lost. The peace that needs no reason. The light that needs no fuel. You are that, and you always will be. So let go completely. Not into nothing, but into everything, into the vast, open, loving space that you are. Sleep, rest, be. You are a lamp unto yourself, and the light has never gone out. Thank you for joining us tonight at Lotus Sleep. May your rest be deep. May your dreams be gentle, and may you wake, not as someone fixed, but as someone remembered. Good night.